what's up, everybody? Welcome to Goaltending, where your why is bigger than your excuses. I'm your host, Will Bland, and today we have someone who has overcome so many obstacles and challenges to build a successful business from the ground up. Here to share her journey, lessons learned, and keys to success that she's learned along the way. But before I introduce our guest, I can never say thank you enough for tuning in and allowing us to be a part of your journey. I challenge you to take something away from the episode today. The goal is to grow, so you know the ask if you've listened before. It's just that you like and subscribe, leave a 5-star review, join the conversation through comments and messages, and share it with someone you know it can help. And I'm not asking you to share it for me. This isn't a generic ask. I'm asking for the friend of yours that is struggling with confidence to pursue something that they're passionate about or to go after a business opportunity, or the family member of yours who struggles with imposter syndrome and needs motivation and inspiration to take action toward what they're pursuing. So I'm not asking you to share it for me. I'm not asking you to even share it because you like it, but rather share it to make an impact in someone's life. And without further ado, our guest today is the owner of Prepping with Peppers. If you live in Louisville, Kentucky, you may have heard of it. It's a fantastic meal prep company, and we met and became friends back around 2020 when I got back from deployment. And at that time, she was already in stride of operating the business when I met her. And since then, the company has grown substantially with meal pickups at multiple gyms, website updates, an expanded menu, a new storefront location, and so much more. It's just been constant growth and constant go. And while her consistency in growing the business is extremely impressive, her ability to overcome adversity and be a strong presence in her family is just something that truly stands out to me. And I've loved watching the journey, and I'm excited to have you here today to share some of it. Amber Jones, welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you.
So excited. Thank you for, taking the time for being here, because I know you're very busy as well.
I am, but this is fun. This is not in the kitchen, so it's something out of my comfort zone, which is always fun.
Absolutely. I love stepping out of the comfort zone.
Same. It's hard, but same.
Just to kind of warm people up, to introduce Prepping with Peppers, can you kick us off with sharing some of the story of Prepping with Peppers and how it all got started?
So I had zero intention of starting any kind of business or meal prep company. I used to cook foods literally only out of a box. I was a really bad cook. I was in my 20s and had 2 children, was going through a divorce. Everything that I had was gone. My house went into foreclosure. I lost my cars. I had to move around. At one point, I was roommates with another mother who had twin boys, and she and I were living in a 3-bedroom house, sorry. And my kids and I shared a den, which was a garage. We had 2 beds in a garage, and that was home. And it was very comfortable and cozy, considering, I think, our financial situation for both of us moms. And we definitely used each other a lot to balance some of that stuff. But I started cooking more health conscious and meal prepping. People were picking up at my house. I would literally go to Kroger and spend $95 and make like 20 meals or something. Mind you, this was 10 years ago, so you could not make $95 stretch for that many meals now. But
no, not today.
So basically, I just started doing that, and I had friends that couldn't cook, friends that were trying to go to the gym, that were working, and they would just buy my meals for like $2.50 a piece, because I would take that grocery bill and divide it by however many meals it would cook.
Yeah.
And I'm not even gonna lie, like, I used to throw some yogurt and things in there for my kids and still split that $95 or whatever it was between those people. And finally one of them was like, okay, you cannot charge me this anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. You're spending 2 days getting all this stuff done. Like, you need to charge me more. And I had no idea what to charge people. So,
right.
I basically just was like, okay, well, if it costs me $2.50, I'll charge you $5. So meals were $5. And then it just continued to grow. Then I had to raise prices to $6 as groceries and such went up. And then found a commercial space about 2 years in, actually. Quit my full-time job 4 years into being an entrepreneur. I called my mom freaking out because I was like, I've worked 45 hours this week at work and then 27 hours this weekend on meal preps in 2 days. Plus, I had two small children. Jameson, I think, was 2 and Elizabeth was 6.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just no way. There was no freaking way. And she was like, well, if you think this is what you're going to do, you better just jump. But entrepreneurship's not easy. And I did. I was like, I can't do it anymore. So.
And you took the
And
leap.
it's, yeah. And so 8 years legally owning this business as of June the 4th. That date is always kind of wonky to me because it's kind of the day that I got my LLC paperwork is when I would consider it to be legal.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've moved to 3 different kitchens. We now have a storefront off of Blank & Baker. We started with, I think, like 300 square feet. Now we have 1,875 square feet.
Wow.
I had one 2-door fridge. Now I have like a walk-in fridge with like 7 doors. It's insane. It's insane.
Yeah.
But I love it.
So that is just an incredibly inspiring story because so many people are in a tough position.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have a lot of money to start or struggling to find balance between being a parent and working and maybe having an idea that they're not sure if they want to pursue and not sure where to start.
Well, it's not even just having the idea because like I can't say that I ever had an idea. But I didn't, there was no excuses. Like there was no room for me to make excuses. There were no sick days. There were no anything. If I didn't show up, if I didn't cook the food, if I didn't sell the food, if I didn't text 50 people, which I should have brought my notebooks to show you. Cause I used to have a like planner and I would text 60 people in one day or we'd be in the car and my sister KK would be texting copy and paste. This is what I'm cooking this week. What do you want? Before we even had a website. Like if I didn't show up and do those things, regardless of how I felt, my kids weren't going to eat. Because we didn't qualify for assistance. We were low income, but they did not see us as the assisted kind, I guess. I don't know how all of that works.
Yeah. So I like that you just took action. There was you stumbled upon a need.
Yeah.
Like you were solving a problem for yourself. You're like, I need to start making healthier meals.
Oh,
and
for
then it started with friends and family and seeing the need for them and then realizing, oh, this creates value. Like this.
Well, I don't even think I realized it until that client told Carly was her name. I don't even think I realized it until she was like, okay, no, like I'm not gonna just pay you $2.50 for a meal. Like, no. So
it's good to have people around you that can also point those things out.
Yes.
And sometimes you stumble upon it, but by having the right people around you, it can help lead you down the path. And it's just grown to this incredible place to where you're able to look back and say, wow, from the house to 300 square feet to, would you say about 1,800 square feet or close to?
1,875.
It's incredible. Insane. A lot of people sometimes they have an idea, but they get stuck in planning. Yeah. And I think you did the opposite. You went straight to action.
I had no plan. There was no plan.
No plan. There's a need. We're going to work. And you said no excuses. There wasn't an excuse. You did what you had to do.
I don't feel like I had a choice, honestly. And it ended up being the biggest blessing that I probably could give to my family. But it definitely, I've had multiple versions of myself within those no excuse moments. Yeah. And I've really learned a lot about me. Because I think in my 20s, when I was going through my divorce and stuff too, like I didn't really know who I was. Like, I got out of high school, I got married, had kids. Like I thought I was living and doing the happy family thing. And I made a lot of mistakes. And so it kind of like the I'm falling down a cliff and here I am. I'm just going to like, all right, now I'm going to climb.
Yeah.
So,
Life is a good teacher.
yeah.
So those
Oh, yeah.
those mistakes, those
Oh,
challenges,
yeah.
those obstacles. So there's one obstacle or maybe a societal pressure might be the better term to say. You shared a post from 7 years ago when someone was questioning your
Oh,
priorities
yes.
in relation to making time for your kids while you're like getting this business started and this is building something. Can you share that story and a little bit of what was going on at that time?
Yeah, so this person actually is a very good family friend. Love her to death. I was not there for my kids all the time because I was working, and I do think sometimes that I missed things. I think that like in the midst of grinding, I was so focused on the grind that like I might have been present, but I was not present. I
Hmm.
don't even know if that makes 100% sense,
No,
but
absolutely makes sense.
like I was there, I was existing, I was working, I was grinding. I didn't miss anything with school. I didn't miss most of things, but like I was not always remembering everything or actually soaking in the moments. And
Hmm.
we were at, I think it was during the summer, and we were supposed to be going to the pool with the kids. And I was like, y'all can have them. They can come stay the night with you because I wanted them to live their best life. But I've got 400 meals that I've got to cook in my home kitchen.
Yeah.
And then I have to figure out within two refrigerators in the house. One was in the garage, one, and had a roommate also at the time because I
Hmm.
couldn't. It took me forever to get away from being able to be financially stable on my own. Um, and so I had to figure out how to stuff everything I could in two refrigerators and then also balance people and their schedules to come pick up the food. So like I
Yeah.
missed a whole day. And she was basically kind of in her words I think being motherly by like, dude, you're doing too much, like, and you're missing like these moments with your kids. But I don't
Hmm.
think what other people saw was that I was trying to create a different life for my kids so I could be more present.
Yeah.
So like maybe the first couple of years were going to be really rough, but in my mind I kept saying if I keep doing this, if I keep doing this, if I keep doing this, every time we moved homes, we were in a better situation. We were
Hmm.
on a better street, we were in a better zip code, you could say. Every
Yeah.
single time that I kept grinding, like I had a nicer car or they were able to have nicer shoes and things like that. So
Hmm.
initially, I can see where from perception is reality for most people. So they perceived that I was not physically present all the time or mentally present all the time.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was trying to do the most for them too.
Oh yeah.
And now, that was, gosh, I think Elizabeth was missing teeth and everything in that picture. So 7 years. She's 14 now.
Wow.
Yeah.
It flies by.
Yeah. We just had an argument over $100 pants. Like, I could have never bought her $100 pants back then.
Right,
So
right.
it's like, come on now.
Yeah.
I was spending time with them just in a different perception, like
Yeah.
a different reality for some people.
I can relate a lot because I've been there where
Yeah.
you're focused on building, you're focused on the grind, and it's
Yeah.
not
Your next
about
move.
yeah, it's not about that you don't want to be present or that you're not being there for your kids, but rather you're looking at the future and trying to build the best possible future and the best possible life. And
The long run.
that's why I always bring up balance. Like I talk about balance a lot because
Balance is a tricky word, though.
it
It's a
is.
tricky, tricky word.
So, how did you balance?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, like, sometimes now where we're at, I have 10 employees. We're 100% female owned and operated. So I feel like um, no offense, but I feel like as women, being surrounded by women all day, even with my kids in and out of the kitchen, they're all kind of motherly.
Hmm.
So they all kind of give something to my kids that maybe I don't always get to give.
Yeah.
So that helps. I think that balance of, okay, well, today you have to go to the kitchen with me,
Hmm.
but you're going to get, they're learning things too.
Hmm.
They're learning how to do something different, how to freaking work. My kids see me work, man.
Yeah.
So like the balance in that is okay, I'm teaching them lessons. They are learning things even if they don't think they are sometimes.
Yeah.
But the work and the mom balance is hard. The work and the spouse balance is hard because my husband's also trying to be super successful. So like
Yeah.
where I have like this established business now and he's trying to take off in some places. And I think sometimes I'm a little selfish because I'm like, no, this has to take priority because this is what's the bread and butter that's established. And
Yeah.
it's not maybe always fair. So I think maybe I need to learn a few more lessons with the balance thing, but I think
Hey.
I don't know. I don't know how I've balanced it all. I've tried.
Well, we can. I mean, we all always have more to learn,
Yes.
and with just experience and life happening, we're able to constantly adapt and learn more and continue to grow.
Yeah.
In terms of the valuable lessons that your kids are able to pick up from seeing this, I'm a firm believer that more is caught than taught. So by
Yes.
them seeing the grind, by them seeing you grow and build this business, and they've been alive for it, through their whole childhood and still to now, and seeing the growth. And maybe from the early childhood, they might not remember all of it, but
I don't know.
they're the thing is they're there and they're seeing the action.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot that's being caught that they
And
will be able to apply that not everybody sees or not everybody gets in their growth and development as a child.
yeah, I think I missed a lot of that stuff. I think when maybe the balance part I'm more intentional with. Like I'm very intentional with, okay, I like, right, this past week I've been home every single night at 7 or 8 o'clock. So like tomorrow I'm off. I have nothing planned tomorrow. And I'm very into like we are going to the zoo. We are all gonna spend time together.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what we do. We're going to do something together. So and like the other night, Elizabeth and I went to dinner, just like us and Scarlett, and I'm kind of try to be more intentional with those moments because I don't think I got that with my parents, and they
Yeah.
weren't nearly as busy with me. So
The thing about balance is it's a moving target.
yeah,
There's not a like I'm just a balanced individual. It's a daily, even you could break it down even more to like times of the day, but
yeah,
it's really, you have to find what works for you. And because life and your environment is constantly changing, what balance looks like for you also has to change with
oh
that.
yeah, you definitely have to adapt. And like today, it could be we're short. Literally, from my business perspective, we could be short on chicken. But tomorrow, it could be that I have 3 employees that are sick. Then the next day, it could be that I don't know, my car doesn't want to run or something. It's just always, I think, an act of balancing. Like
Yeah.
an act of, okay, what is going to fix today, the now, to make tomorrow easier, and then tomorrow it's a whole nother game.
Yeah. So you touched on it, or touched on. It sounds like there's been a lot of almost rock bottoms. There's been a lot of challenges, but I want to bring up hitting rock bottom in your life because so many people either have seen that, have hit it already, or will at some point, and we'll have to face what hitting rock bottom looks like. And me personally, I believe that the rest of your life is determined by how you respond to that time in your life or those times in your life. And you can either break when you hit the bottom or you can find a way to bounce back. And I feel like I've seen you bounce back. And are you willing to share a little bit of what rock bottom looked like for you?
Oh, yes. So, I think rock bottom for me honestly started when I was a child. I didn't have great parents. I had wonderful grandparents. Um, but it was my life, I feel like, was a constant survival act as a child. My dad was in and out. My mom was in and out. I had wonderful step parents that actually both ended up being divorced from my biological parents. And today, that is who I call my mom and dad. Like, those are my people. I do not currently speak to my biological mom or my biological dad. But my step parents, who I guess now are no longer my step parents, are my parents. So I feel like my whole life was a little bit of a struggle trying to identify who I was and what was right versus what was wrong, because kind of what you said with the taught versus caught. I caught a lot of, I never want to be like this. I never want to be like this. I never want to be like this. As opposed to being taught that. I will say my stepdad, which is my dad, has taught me and vocally been there to answer the phone calls when I was having breakdowns or whatever. My grandparents were also there. My grandmother, she's a freaking saint, has always been there to pick up the pieces for everyone. And my mom, my stepmom, owns a business. She's a hairstylist. And so I think a lot of that, like, I bounced off of her, and she's like, you don't want to do this. Like, yes, this is the only way. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
Because I have two kids to think about going to school with two small kids and trying to figure out a different type of career was not going to happen for me. So the foundation that I have built for my children when I was still technically a child, I mean, I had Elizabeth when I was 21. So the foundation that I had built were basically the rocks that I kind of felt like were thrown at me in my adolescence. And then I had to figure out how, in my head, not to be like that.
Yeah.
So I've constantly said to myself and to several people around me that you need to be who you needed when you were younger. And I needed someone that was a strong female that could set an example for my future. And I just didn't have that. And so that is what I've constantly strived for in every situation. So when we were in the 3-bedroom house with mother with 2 kids, we would have birthday parties and stuff. I didn't own furniture. I didn't have a single piece of furniture. So literally there are pictures where my family would bring lawn chairs and we'd sit in my living room having a birthday party. Like, it's insane. My son wanted a dinosaur party. I went and got rocks out of the freaking garden and washed them and put them on the table and made brownies because they were 99 cents. Like, the craziest of things from rock bottom are now some of, like, my very great core memories. And that says a lot about me. I think that's part of the me that I've learned of who I am. But also, like, the no excuses thing, like, I'll go back to that because it's the same. You might be at rock bottom. You might feel like, I don't see a way out. But there are things that you can do. There is something, you have some skill, some form of perseverance if you're still here.
Yeah.
Some form of mental stability, something is there to tell you that you know that this is rock bottom and you know you have to do something else. But what is it? Well, in my life, I've seen several people that are like, well, I can't find a job. Well, have you tried McDonald's? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? No. Why? Because do you think that because you can't find a job, you're too good for those jobs? Like, you just have to keep going. And I think that this kind of gracefully fell into my lap. I mean, I sat on my living room floor and cried with my no furniture. That's why I was sitting on the floor and like, okay, God, where am I going next? Because this keeps coming and these people keep ordering food, but I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
But you don't get to be tired when you're broke. You don't get to be tired when you're broke. You don't get to be tired when you're fighting for something. We all need rest. But I think, like, all of us say, I don't know, I feel like in different times of our lives, we all think that we've earned some type of rest that we've not.
Yeah.
Even now, I can even say that now about me. Like, this week has been insane. I'm exhausted. I slept in yesterday until 9 o'clock. Like, okay, so but now I have to get up and grind. Like, there's nothing else left. So I think that comes with an exchange. So if you're going to hit rock bottom and you're going to go somewhere with it, you can't just, it has to be everything. It has to be mental, physical, all of you. I don't know. You have to just fight, I guess, essentially, to get where you're at. But other parts of my rock bottom have been Several. There have been several. From the divorce, like
Yeah.
crazy things with my family, and then you think you're creating the happily ever after, and then you get divorced, and it's like, okay, I don't even know what I have now.
Right.
Um, and then really out of that is, I think, gave me the fuel to build all of this. And then losing my house and stuff. I mean, really, were just things. I think people get caught up in your things.
That's true. And there's a lot of just from people getting caught up in your things, but also when you're when you talk about the going through divorce, you have your own emotions to deal with.
Well, I didn't even know what.
Plus,
Yeah, I didn't even know what those emotions were either.
plus the societal pressures.
Yeah.
Like what are other people thinking and saying that are around me, and then you start to worry about those things too, which takes away from your ability to process for yourself.
Oh, I definitely did. I had
Yeah.
a very large, I say large, but a very quaint, tight knit friend group, and it was like 5 couples. And for really the first year, we kind of had a falling out because I'm like, everybody's married, everybody's happily married, everybody has kids, and then here now I'm the single girl, and
Yeah.
where do I fit?
Mm.
Because I didn't know. I didn't like my self identity. I had built so much in a person because of how my childhood was. I think I like thought that was the end goal, and it just wasn't.
Yeah.
So the end goal was me. Like I had to figure out who I was and what I was going to stand for and what I was going to build and how I was going to be a mother to my kids, regardless of that situation. And now, like 10, 11 years later, he and I are super good friends
Yeah.
and we co parent. Like, we're awesome. I love his wife. Their son is 4. He looks at Scarlett and he's like, "Oh, that's my other sister." And we're like, "Yeah," like because
That's great to hear
that's how
that.
it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was I think that was the biggest rock bottom that I think that I hit.
No, I'm glad to hear that that you all were able to grow into a cohesive unit. It sounds
Yeah,
like, and that helps in life so much more. When we're talking about the struggles, the rock bottom of in childhood, the struggles with, I guess what people would call a broken home, like parents being split up or like dealing with problems with parents. I know that I grew up in a what would be called a broken home.
tumultuous situation.
Right. My mom was divorced. I guess she was married 4 times. She married my dad twice.
My parents got engaged 3 times, so I understand.
Yeah.
I understand the same thing.
And what's wild is, we're like, when we think about our life, we're like, we grew up in a difficult situation, and I think that that's becoming more and more common, which is sad. Like a lot of people are growing up and coming from or at least in our generation, a lot of people grew up in broken homes and those
Agreed.
difficult
Yeah,
environments.
my husband and I both did.
Yeah. So recently, there was a 13-year-old kid that came and knocked on our front door,
Oh,
and extremely random. We had just put the kids down. Somebody knocks on the door. I'm like,
yeah.
who's here? We're not expecting anyone. Um, he says I ran away from home. He saw a neighbor of mine is a police officer. He saw their car in their
Thought it was
driveway.
yours.
And he was like, I tried to knock on the police officer's door. I need help. And
Well, I have goosebumps.
I was like, let me call him. I was like, first off, I'm friends with the police officer. I'll give him a call and see what the right direction is to take.
Right.
Okay. I was like, let me give him a call. So he wasn't home or available, but he was like, go ahead and call 911. They'll get somebody out to help. And while I'm waiting for the police to come out, I grabbed him a blanket because it was a little chilly. I sat out on the front porch with him, and he's telling me about some of the struggles he's going through in life, and it took me back to those struggles I had as a kid, and really made me think about some of the similar situations he was describing to me, remembering those feelings, like those difficult times. And the thing that I was trying to tell him is you don't have to be a product of your environment. Don't
No, that does not define you.
Yeah. So don't let what's going on right now define you. It also just opened my eyes to gratitude, to being so grateful for where I am now, what I've worked for, what Brittany and I have been able to build together. So also made me very grateful to reflect on those times and to see the need to share knowledge and guidance with the next generation. And you mentioned the younger version of yourself. What advice would you give to that kid, that or that younger version of yourself that is going through it right now?
Ugh. One, that is very admirable of you to have taken him in for a moment and have that conversation with him, because I do think that all of those, I think everything happens for a reason. I'm a firm believer of that. Like, we are put in situations, and it's our choices and chances that make those situations into something. Like, you're given a chance and you make a choice. You made a choice to sit there and have that communication with him, and hopefully that gives him another chance to go make a better choice.
Yeah.
And I think that the younger version of myself, I have 5 younger sisters, and I see all of them on different paths. And it makes me kind of emotional because not all of us are, they're not me. We're not the same. We're very different.
Yeah.
And so the younger version of myself, like, I can see my daughter too, and like things that, gosh, if she had to go through some of the stuff that I went through, like, how would I help her as a parent? But also, like, how could she help herself? Sorry, it's making me a little nervous there.
No, that's all right. Take your time.
That's emotional.
It
It's
very,
very
much is.
emotional. It brings up things that you think you've healed from, and then it's like, they're still there. They're
Yeah.
still there. But it's good. Sorry.
You're good. No, first off, thank you for being vulnerable and open, because it's not easy to reflect on those things
No.
sometimes, and it does bring up a lot of emotions and
I think for me, genuinely, like, my biggest struggle was with my mother. And it's still really hard. I think having 3 kids too and being a mother, it's really like, how does anyone put their children in that situation? My current husband and I, we argue sometimes. We have situations that could be something bigger if you allowed it to be something bigger. But it also could be something that you pause, you say what you need to say, you pause, you reflect, and you're married. So, like, we've had situations where he's like, I guess I'm just gonna go for a drive or something. I'm like, no. If you leave this house, you're not coming back, because if I've got to be uncomfortable in what just happened, you get to sit right here with me and be uncomfortable too, because that was what we said and that was what we did. And thankfully, my husband is the type of man that he'll sit there and be uncomfortable with me for however long it takes.
yeah.
So he has done a lot of work too. And so something like that, I'm like, you have to go through those uncomfortable moments with whomever it is. But a lot of people constantly told me, well, that's your mom, but that's your mom. How could you vocalize or deal with your situation or talk about things that happened in your childhood because it's disrespectful to your mom? And so I struggled with that, I think, more than anything as the younger version of me. I was constantly searching for that approval and that thing that you can only get from your mom.
Yeah.
Like, my dad tells me he's proud of me all the time. Thanks. I don't know why, but like, it's just different
Yeah.
when it comes from your mom. So, my advice to someone that's been through stuff like that is, one, it doesn't need to define you. It is not who you are. You are not just like them. You might have mannerisms and things that replicate the situation, but we're all knowledgeable enough to say, okay, whoop, there's my trauma creeping in. This is not normal. Breathe
Mm-hmm.
and make a different choice. Um, and if people wanted you to talk nicer about them, they should have been nicer. If they didn't want you to tell your story, they shouldn't have written it the way that they did. Like,
Mm. Oh, yeah.
if they didn't want to be narrated, they should not have acted that way. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. And speaking about things that have happened to you and talking about not just to your therapist, but like that kid,
Yeah.
like he needed to hear something from you. He was put on your doorstep for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you live in a very nice neighborhood. So most of the families around here probably are very like close knit families.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't always, like for me, we were poor. We lived, so like we had this stereotype of, well, they're just all arguing and doing whatever. And so like now it's kind of like even in those situations, in the nicer things, there's still these families that are struggling and they need something. And I don't know. That was very intentional for him to knock on your door. And I kind of got way off track there.
No, that I think, I hope that he's able to take away something from that and able to use it. And in your story, I like that you mentioned the having siblings and all taking different paths. So
Yeah.
I have a full brother, a step brother, two half sisters, and a stepsister, and we've all gone very different
Mm-hmm.
directions. We've all also had different traumas to deal with. Although we came up in similar environments, it doesn't mean we all had the exact same.
Oh no, the stories are all
Yeah.
different.
So there can be a different story for each person, even if you came up in the
Oh
same home.
yes.
So our traumas look different, and where we've gone in life and what we do with that is different. And I guess it can be sometimes for me it almost makes me feel like guilty sometimes because
Same.
I
We're,
want to lift them up. I want them to be where I am, but at the same time
are you the oldest?
I'm not.
Okay.
Um, but I do want to lift them up and I want to see them succeed. But at the same time, we're all on our own journey, and we all have to find it for ourselves.
Agreed.
And so I would, if any of them need help, I'll do the best that I can to help them. But I also don't want to and can't enable them. Like I don't want to hand them things to
I've
try to lift them up because they have to learn it for
Right.
themselves.
I've been in that exact situation recently with one of my siblings. Um, she's kind of strung out all over the place. One day it's this, one day it's another thing, and she is doing the absolute best I think that she can right now. Um, but I think she is caught in a cycle, and the
Mm-hmm.
only person that can break that cycle is her. And after so long, when you keep being told as the person that is on the outside, wanting to help, wanting to encourage, and wanting to be there, wanting to answer every single phone call and be present and like, yes, I'm here for you. I'm so proud of you. You kind of get tired of hearing the same things. You kind of get like accustomed to, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and this and it's always either the most or nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And so you kind of get stuck in that, what do you really believe and how can you help? Because monetarily you can't, because you don't know what they're going to go spend money on.
That's true.
You don't know if they're going to use it for good, or if it's going to, or if it's going to be more of a burden to them because, oh, now I have this money and I need to use it for this, but in their mind their addiction or whatever is going to pull them in the other direction.
Yeah.
um and so like, yeah, that's hard. I'm the oldest too, so I think like that, I always wanted to like hide them from the things that happened with my mom, and it did not always work. And then I was also the first one to get out of the situation. I was the first one to leave. I was the first one to say that, like, this is not going to be the definition of who I am. I was actually 15. I was a sophomore in high school when I left.
Yeah.
And I think that they blamed me for a little while. I know my middle sister definitely did. She was like, well, you left and now I'm the victim. And I'm like, sorry. I felt bad.
Yeah.
But I could, like, which is safer, to stay there and to deal with that stuff, or to leave and go make something of myself, so then we could maybe, when you get out, then I can help you. But then I kind of feel like sometimes that victim mentality kind of got her.
Yeah.
And she's the only one that can get out of it. I can't take her out of that.
I'm glad that you mentioned victim mentality, because I think that I don't know if there may be research out there on this. I'm not sure, but I think a big differentiator is in your response to those situations. You have to either decide, I'm going to take ownership. I'm going to take ownership of my life. I am in control of how I respond. I can't control anybody else. I think you can respond that way, or you can respond with the victim mentality of, life is happening to me, or and blaming life and circumstances and the people around you instead of taking ownership.
I did that. I did that before I got married to my first husband.
Yeah.
Yes, I full blown had victim mentality. I full blown blamed him for everything. I full blown had all of that. And now, I mean, looking back, like, I did wrong things too, but it was not a learning point for me until now.
Yeah.
I did that with going to school. I played the victim mentality because my parents didn't help me. And, it sucked. But it's made me work like a psychopath to get to where I am now. But it's also like knowing that you can say, okay, I definitely was in that position. I used those opportunities a few times. I did.
Yeah.
But to try to see other people in that and teach them how to get out of that. Like, yes, these things happen to you, but these things are not who you are. You lived through this and it sucked, and it was the beginning of your life, so absolutely that's all you knew. But now you know better, and now you know what not to do, and so go do different. Do different and be different.
Do you did you have like an aha moment where that, I guess, it hit you that you did have a victim mentality and came out of it, or was it more of a gradual thing and just time kind of revealed it?
I don't know, actually. I think that starting this business and realizing that I was actually starting a business, and the grind and trying to be around more like-minded people that were doing the same, going to the gym, getting really big into like the fitness motivation and the literally Apple Music play motivational speeches. Like, listening to those things for the gym mentality kind of put me into a different clarity.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that always pops up is the Rocky Balboa.
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
I know exactly
You
what
are
you're
not
talking
what.
about.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's screaming at you, and like, I think I'm very much the person that will put that on repeat still to this day. Like, Shane got in the car the other day and he was like, "Is this really what you listen to? Is this on repeat?" I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Does it help?" And I'm like, "It does. It really does."
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need Rocky to scream at you.
That's it. And that, first of all, that's a fantastic one.
It is, because I can't think of what it says, and like, it's talking about greatness, and he's just screaming and screaming. And
he's talking to his son in that moment. Yeah. Wow. First, that's a great one to have on repeat. But I agree, just having something that you're able to use as a reminder for your motivation. As we this is a lot of talking about our childhoods.
I know.
And I think that that's important because when it comes to mindset, when it comes to improving your mindset and just elevating as a person or a leader, I just did an episode recently with Ryan Gottfredson, and he wrote 2 books, Success Mindsets and The Elevated Leader. But a big focus of becoming an elevated leader is healing from your past traumas.
Yeah.
Like learning to deal with those so that you can be more emotionally intelligent to respond to an ever changing environment.
You have to get through the forest before you can see the trees.
Yeah.
When you're in the forest, all you can see is the trunks. Once
I
you
like
get
that.
through the forest, you can see the trees. And then you can see, like, okay, this one looks like this on the outside. And it's a different viewpoint.
Absolutely. And on the childhood issues, as I was getting older, I still learning a lot. I had convinced myself that I didn't want to have kids. That is what I took. I was like, I don't want to have kids, and that was tied to my childhood issues. And I mean, one being that my dad wasn't around for a lot of my childhood. He was in jail. Um, he was an alcoholic and an addict, and
Same.
and dealt with those things. I was afraid to become a father because I didn't think that I knew how to be one because I didn't have an example. And
You did have an example, though.
I had an example of what not to
You
do.
did.
And I didn't realize that till later, but I was like, I learned a whole lot of what not to do.
Yeah.
And while there was still a huge learning curve, there's still a ton to learn. And I think that's for anybody, whether you come up from a good home or a bad home or in between. Having kids there's a learning curve. There's a lot to learn. But did you have any kind of, when it came to having kids, did you have any kind of similar like fears because of that?
No. So for me, with my bringing up and everything, I always wanted the happy family. I always wanted the opposite of what I had. So it wasn't the no kids and everything else. I wanted the happy family, the white picket fence, the clean home, the animals, because we didn't grow up with dogs, which is why I'm a little obsessed with my dogs now. But like I wanted that. I wanted those experiences. I wanted to be a mother because I knew that what I was going through was not okay. And I felt like for the most part that was going to be the definition of who I was. I grew up thinking that like the end all was that I was going to have a happy family and I was not going to have to deal with that anymore. And honestly, having my kids put more stressors on my very young marriage, and then it all came tumbling down, kind of, I think, in a way to teach me a lesson.
Yeah.
Of like, yeah, this could be your goal, but like, what are the actions that you're going to take to make it a happy family? Yeah. And because it's like, even now, like I have, 2 older kids that are not from my current husband. And then I have a 1-year-old that is my current husband's daughter. And I still say to my kids now all the time, like, oh, well, are you my son? Well, I was your boy. And now you married Shane, that Christmas song, you gave your heart. He sings that all the time. And he's like, and you gave your heart to Shane. And I'm like, I did. But in order to create a happy family for you, my husband has to come first. And it's like the silliest things of who gets the ice cream scoop first, like,
Yeah.
It is really the silliest things. But now, like, I'm showing my kids different, but I didn't always do that. I thought it was just going to happen. I thought if I just got married and had kids, that it was just going to be wonderful.
Oh, no, there's the work. There is the work to put in.
Yeah, well, yeah. And then there are different challenges every single day. And then if somebody breaks your kid's heart in one sense or another, or they're struggling with things and you have to figure out how to navigate through that, it's fun. It's a different journey.
Oh, it definitely is. Now, we've been all around
I know.
family today. And first off, that incredible episode already, just for the vulnerability and the openness.
I know,
and
you're
the
going to need
actually
a part
going
2.
deep. Part 2 could happen very easily. We have so much we could talk about. But a piece I want to make sure we do get on is you've got quite a bit of a fitness background, and you did cheerleading, you've done personal training, CrossFit, and at one point in time, Olympic weightlifting as
Yep,
well.
I competed.
So you have had a relationship with consistency. To do all of those things, you understand those
Oh,
things and
yes.
have been there. And now we have different seasons in life.
Uh-huh.
And so I wanted to bring this up. You had a post on your social media about it, and I thought it was so important to talk about. You talked about all of the back-to-back life events that have happened over the last few years that just threw off that consistency.
Yeah.
And that's COVID hit. You got married, you moved houses, had a baby, opened the new storefront, and it's been
Consistent.
one thing after another.
Yeah.
So basically, your consistency has been inconsistency.
Yes. Yes.
Because of the constant changes.
Yes.
And so I've hit a like similar snags and consistency before that took a lot of mental adjustment and determination to get back on track, to like find a way back. And can you talk a little bit about where you are right now, the goals that you have, and where you want to get with
Yes.
fitness, nutrition, those kind of things?
Right now I'm doing the most. I am counting literally I had leftover tacos last night, that because I know exactly what I can eat. I log everything,
Yep.
every single thing right now. And so like this morning I'm weighing squash. Like a squash is 10 calories, but I'm like weighing it out because I know exactly how much fiber I'm supposed to have, how much everything. So, yeah, 2020 hit. I was single in my own home with not a 14-year-old. She was 11 and my son was 7. And my husband came home from deployment, decided he was going to be my husband. We literally, I think he had his house in Lexington for 14 days before he moved in. Like, no,
Yeah.
and he never left. Like, he came home and he never left. And like, we were friends, but never really touched on like an actual relationship. Then we were married immediately. He had hip surgery.
Yeah.
He had hip surgery. Then we got married.
Yeah.
So
I left out the hip
was
surgery.
Nurse Becky, housewife all of a sudden, and still trying to run a business in the economy going up and down, up and down, up and down. Like our orders were very sporadic, but we are a zero debt business. So I really think the zero debt business helped to propel us through COVID. I think if we would have had debt, we would not have made it.
Yeah.
Plus, I would like to say that I'm mostly frugal. So I was pretty good about saving and only spending what I had to spend. When you've been poor once and you've hit rock bottom, that doesn't really ever go away.
Yeah.
Like, if our savings account hits a number, I'm like, we have $2. We need to, like, what are we going to do with this $2? Like, it's so silly, but it is down to sometimes, like, the strategy of your brain and whatever. So that happened. I got pregnant, which was very intentional. We were also in the middle of building a home because my current husband, when he came home from deployment, felt and vocalized very loudly like I was in deployment and my life was sitting in deployment. And everybody else's lives that had wives and families were propelling ahead of me. And he was like, and so as soon as I got home and I knew for years that I wanted to be with you, it was like, okay, how do I play catch up? And I don't even know. My husband said, we're running. And he was not even my husband at this time. And I was like, okay, God, we're running. Okay, let me change my shoes and we're just going to run. And we did. In 3 years, we've built a house, got married, opened a new storefront, had a baby. Like, it was insane. And I told him in the old kitchen, I was like, once we have this baby, I'm taking a whole year off. Because I felt like what I had told earlier about missing certain things. And I did not want to miss anything with that first year of Scarlett's life.
Yeah.
That was very important to me. And I am not a good housewife. I'm not a good stay-at-home mom. My brain overthinks and underthinks. And I'm building strategies. And like, I had this whole plan. And I texted Shane and said, this storefront is available. I'm going to look at it tomorrow at 2. And he was like, what? Scarlett was 6 months old.
Uh-huh.
6 months old. And he's like, why? We can't even afford, you don't even have the amount for 1 month of rent. You don't even have that in the business account. And I didn't. I didn't. And honestly, I think that I had a little bit of resentment towards him from that statement. And I was like, watch me. Like, it was one of
Yeah.
those very much like, oh, you think, whatever. But I didn't, because I had to pay someone to be me. And so, like, our funds were low, low,
Mhm.
low, low. 1 month's rent was $4,000. And I had to have twice that just for a deposit, then a build out money, and
Mhm.
all the equipment money. I did not know what the heck I was going to do.
Yeah.
And we don't have loan money. I went through a foreclosure and a bankruptcy 10 years ago. Most companies don't want to give you money, even if your business has done good and been alive for that long.
Yeah.
So I started grinding again and lost myself a little bit there. I had a personal trainer right before
Yeah.
I started opening the new storefront, and was finally like getting my groove back from all of the other life changes and from having the baby. And then the storefront kind of threw me off because it just needed my attention every single day.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was with the storefront. I don't know. I really don't know what it was. I was just sitting on the couch, casually scrolling through real estate, which is a normal thing for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, my husband thought I was nuts. And now we went from making maybe $2,000 a month in sales to we are doing about $10,000 a week in sales.
Yeah.
And that's been since September. So in 7 months, 8 months, October, November,
Wow.
December, January. Yeah,
That's awesome.
7 months.
I love your
And still,
response.
still debt free. I won't put that out there. Like, I
Woo!
literally worked and sold feet pics. No, I didn't. But sold meals. I sold meals and sold meals and started doing charcuterie catering,
Yeah.
which I didn't even know that I was good at. Your wife is
Oh.
super good at that too.
Well, thank you. But you're I love seeing the spreads that you do.
They're
For some of the events
insane.
that you do, incredible. They look awesome.
Who wants a 12-foot charcuterie board?
Yeah.
There's a person out there for that.
People want it. I love your response. In terms of you saw that property, and there's really two ways that you can respond to that. You said you could have said it was kind of how your husband responded, how Shane responded, and that was you don't have the money for that.
Which he was being realistic. He
Realistic.
was trying to be like, Amber, you're going to kill us.
But there's two ways to respond to that, and it's you can say I don't have the money for that, or you can say how do I get the money for that, and it sounds like that's how you responded. Is
Well, that's how I respond.
That is what we're going for.
That's how
I'm
I
finding a way
respond.
to get it.
That's how I respond to life in general.
It's a great way to respond.
It's kind of, which we kind of got off of the fitness thing again, but I did lose myself again in the beginning of that. Like, since September, I've gained 25 pounds. Yes, 25 pounds. I had my child. I gained 11 pounds the whole pregnancy. I worked in the kitchen on my feet all the way up until 2 days before I gave birth. Like, it was a whole thing. But I've done that with all of my kids. I thrive in my pregnancies. I really do. Mentally, physically, like, that's why I keep telling him all the time, like, can we have another one? He's like, no, we're done. I'm like, are you sure? Because I'm like the best me ever when I'm pregnant. But the storefront, it was, I don't know. I felt like from all of the life changes from COVID, coming out of that, we survived that. And it was like, okay, if we don't grow, we're going to die. Like we were on that pivoting point of like, either we're going to jump and we're going to do something different, or the business is going to fizzle out. And I didn't want to do it anymore. I didn't. Like, over the summer, I looked at Shane and I was tears, just because this was not a passion project. This is a project that built the passion. And now I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to do and this is what I want to do. But I was so invested in prepping with peppers was my identity, is all I did.
Yeah.
So that it was tearfully like, guess I'm going to go to nursing school or something because I don't want to do this anymore. And he was like, Okay, well, we're going to go to nursing school. How are you going to sell the business? What
The
are you going to
support.
do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't ask me these questions. I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to, but it just worked out. And then I saw it, and it was a gut. It was a feeling.
Yeah.
And I felt like in that moment of him saying, well, you don't even have the money for that, like that passion was like reignited. And postpartum's hard. So when you're sitting at home all day and you're fidgeting your fingers, like taking care of a baby is also hard.
Yeah.
But care of a baby is kind of like running a business too. So when I'm going back and forth from doing all of them, I was bored.
Yeah.
I was bored. And so I didn't want to do it anymore because I was bored.
Wow. I've loved watching your journey.
Thank you.
I'm excited to continue to watch and be a cheerleader for you all to see your growth and success. There could easily be a second, episode with all of the great things that we have to dive into from a business standpoint, from a life standpoint. But for today's purposes and time, is there anything I didn't ask that you think would be just helpful to share?
No, I think this was intentionally going to be more about fitness and the business stuff, and we kind of went off on a tangent of the family, which I think kind of happens, and it needs to happen sometimes. So, no, I think be who you needed when you were younger. For yourself, too. Not just for others, but for yourself, too.
Yeah. I appreciate the vulnerability and the ability to get into that conversation, because while we all want to build something successful, and sometimes that's a business or a successful career or whatever it is that you're wanting to build, the first part of identifying your goal is you identified as figuring out your why. Mm-hmm. And for me, it's my family. For a lot of people, it's their family. And I think that's why it's important that came into the conversation today, because I think that's what we're building for. We had those childhood traumas, those difficult childhoods, and doing everything that we can to change our family tree.
I think I didn't even know what my goal was. The only goal I had was to change my family tree.
Yeah.
So my goal was my why. And it's kind of turned into something I didn't even know it could have been.
Incredible. Well, people need to be able to find you and get the incredible meals that you have, or charcuterie for events or anything. Yeah. What's your website and the best way for people to connect?
Follow me on all the socials at Prepping with Peppers or at Amber Marie Peppers. I'm now Jones, but my maiden name was Peppers. The business is not all about spicy foods. You can also order food, or just if you're curious and just want to peep, you can go to preppingwithpeppers.com. I'm always down for coffee and chat. So if anybody felt completely compelled to do something in their life from this, you can come to the shop and have coffee, and I'll be who you needed when you were younger, I guess.
I love that, and I'm so thankful for you taking the time today, for being open, deep, vulnerable, like getting into the conversation and just sharing your story and experience. So thank you so much, and thank you all for tuning in and allowing us to be a part of your journey. Don't forget to like and subscribe, leave a 5-star review, share it, and reach out. Send us your comments, your thoughts, and your questions to join the conversation, and let's grow together.
Thank you.